Hello, beautiful people. Thank you for joining us this evening. If you are a US, a UK, or a Canada resident and you have ties, your generations go back to the Caribbean islands, this is the convo for you. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Yvonne McBride. This is the Lit Life Podcast. And in this space, we motivate, we inspire, we support women of the African diaspora to reach for and live the life of their dreams. If that is you, if you identify with any of the above, please take some time to subscribe to my channel. Or wait, I'll wait and settle in. Sorry, for this conversation with a very special guest that we have here today. She is a Caribbean community builder. She is also the founder of exodUScollective. Please welcome Zoe Smith.
Hello, hello.
Applause, applause, applause. So, Zoe, introduce yourself to the people.
Well, it's a pleasure to be on your platform, on your channel, on your show. As you said, my name is Zoe Smith. I am originally from London in the UK, and currently living in Grenada, West Indies, with my kids. And yeah, it's a pleasure to connect. I think it's so funny. I think you and I have both been on this journey, and people are, yeah, being elsewhere is very much at the forefront of people's minds. So it's really lovely to come back to this conversation probably about 5 years after I started having it, at a time where, yeah, like more and more people are thinking about being elsewhere.
Well, yes, especially in the current political climate. But it has been trending. Expat living, nomad life has been trending for post COVID. So about for 5 years, right? And the community is building. A lot of people are looking for another life, and we want to make sure they get the resources. We want to make sure they see stories of people who look like them, who have done it with or without children, solo or with the community, with your husband, or people who just want to live a nomad life, not to necessarily relocate, but more and more of us are making this leap and you know thinking of other ways to live their life. So I have been looking at Grenada for the longest time. I'm a beach girl. I'm a beach girl, and you all have the most beautiful beaches. So, I usually start with an origin story, but I'm gonna change things up after we say hello to some of the people in the chat. Hello, Khadijah. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Cheryl, PhD. Thank you for joining us. What's up, Angela? Thank you, ladies. If you have questions about living in Grenada, please put them in the chat so we can get to them. But, okay, so why Grenada? Why Grenada, Zoe? Why did you choose the island and what do you love about it?
That's a very good question. Why Grenada? Um, I think probably the easiest question to answer is why no longer the UK. So I first, my one of my earliest memories is going camping with my father in Switzerland, and I think I was about 3 years old because my mum was pregnant at the time, and I guess she wanted us out of the house, or maybe I don't know, who knows what the negotiations were. But anyhow, my dad and I went camping in Switzerland, and I was like, wow, the world is a really big place. There's so much more than what I see on my doorstep. And I think from that young age, I just knew that like exploring the world was something that was really important to me. And so I was born in London, went to university in Scotland. My first job on leaving university was in Milan, Italy, spent time in Spain. And I always knew that I was going to have an existence that spanned multiple locations. But I never would have imagined that it would be Grenada because coming here as a child, so my parents were born here, but they left when they were children,
Okay.
first came back in the 80s. I didn't mind it as a little kid, But as a teenager, I was like, it's so boring. Like, it's hot.
Why are we like that? Why are teenagers like that? Good Lord.
I remember one time I came when I was about 18 and I actually tried to book myself a flight home. I was like, no, this is not for me. So if anyone had said to 18 or 19-year-old me, you would be living here, I'll be like, you are out of your mind. Like, no, I'm
So
much
you were
more.
born in the UK. You were born there.
I was born in the UK and my interests were in Europe. So I had this thing for Italian guys, right? So I was like always holidaying in Italy and I was just, I don't know, I won't label myself, but I've been on a journey.
They eat that meddling up though. They do.
You know.
That's another story. Okay, go ahead.
That's a different chapter. We're not going to do that one today. But yeah, I think maybe in my late 20s, I was a journalist working in news, and it was just really fast paced, just go, 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 go. And I decided to come to Grenada. Just, I don't know, can't even remember why. I think I had a couple of articles to write. And I just discovered a really different side to the island that I hadn't experienced in my youth. And the contrast of just peace, tranquility, a slow pace of life, and like an all black island, it just did something for me, like at a cellular core level. And yeah, I think after that, things just started unraveling. I was like, yeah, I don't know. It just kind of planted the seed about, yeah, London really isn't it. Like climbing the career ladder, going full speed ahead, I started questioning it. And I think once that happened, it was kind of inevitable that I would come here. That's kind of the short version.
So how did you begin the process, right? You weren't born there. Were your parents living there at the time?
No, my parents left in the 60s. They left when they're like 7 or 8 years old. So even for them, their connection to the island is really tangential. Even now, I don't really have. I mean, I have family here. I just don't know them. So it's not like I've got someone I can leave my kids with. Or I just
right. So no immediate family, distant relatives, basically.
Yeah. So it was quite a long process. So we left London. My child's father and I, we left London probably in 2011 when my son was born. We moved to Ibiza where he was working. And I was like, cool, if we're doing Ibiza, next time we're doing Grenada, because we were both kind of location independent. Came with him. He didn't like it at all.
Did he had ties to the Caribbean?
No, none. No, it was just like I tied him to the Caribbean.
Okay. His tie was you. Okay.
Yeah. And it didn't work for him, but I was like, it really works for me. And I would just come regularly. I'd come like maybe twice a year to just start meeting people, figuring out what could I do. Then in 2015, we were here for 6 months. And it was just basically over the period of 10 years, I would come more frequently, make more connections. And then
you didn't consider any other area. You were just coming to Grenada.
No, because I was born in London, had done Scotland, had done France, had done Italy, had done Spain. So like in terms of Europe, I knew what that was about. And I wanted to be somewhere that was predominantly Black. And not just that, I think I actually had a divination before I left, because everyone was like, you're crazy, you're absolutely crazy. And I was like, I know I'm not crazy, but let me just have like a spiritual sounding board on this. And it was sort of confirmed for me that this was in the order of things, like making that, retracing ancestral connections, being in places that were nourishing, being able to pick up the baton of what came before. That was like a significant part. So it's not really something that I talk about. It's not something that I've spoken about in the past, but it's just so relevant to everything that I do now that I think it's kind of like dishonoring the process if I'm just not.
It was your calling. You were called back to the island, right?
Yeah, and I think more and more of us are being called, not necessarily places to where we have an ancestral link, but places where we can hear, like where there's less distraction, where there's something to work with. I just hear it. The more conversations I have, the more I hear other people who are also on that same sort of journey, and for whatever reason, the time is now. So, Yeah.
So let's talk about the pros. We'll get into the specifics of the journey and the logistics of how you got there, but let's talk about the pros. I'm back on the beaches. I'm back on the landscape. Like, was that a drawing point for you?
Mm, I can't say beaches specifically were, but I think like Grenada definitely isn't for everyone. It's definitely an acquired taste.
Okay.
It's not like Barbados, which is really high end and lots going on. It's not like St. Lucia that has a lot more in terms of entertainment. But I think for people who really just want to unplug and chill and be around nature, there's nothing better. Like it's incredibly safe in terms of accessibility. There are daily flights to the UK, to the US, to Canada. I think in December they're starting direct flights from Atlanta. So it's more accessible than places like, say, Dominica, which is also a very nature-rich
Yeah.
island, but it's very unspoiled and underdeveloped, which drives some people crazy. Like if you like to hustle, if you like to be in and out, like Grenada will drive you mad, wild, mad. But
No,
if
but
you're
we're leaving that behind. We're leaving hustle behind. So it sounds like it's the perfect place to live your life of ease, right?
Yeah, but it's not, it's, yeah, yes. And I think maybe you don't realize which aspects of hustle you actually enjoy until it's gone.
Okay. Okay. So
But
okay, so people compare because I've never been, right? I've never been, but I people don't like St. Lucia, for instance, because they're like, it's boring, there's nothing to do. This is for an island for retirees, right?
okay.
Even though, if you're a tourist there, you can find some action, but overall, living there, people say that's the vibe. Would you say that's the vibe for Grenada?
Oh yeah, St. Lucia's happening compared to Grenada. Grenada, there's so much going on in St. Lucia. Yeah, no, Grenada's yeah, way more laid back than St. Lucia in terms of options for entertainment. There's a lot more going on there. Yeah, it's really low key. It's an acquired taste.
It's an acquired taste. Okay, so if you are an introvert who don't like people, who don't like touristy areas, you would say this is it, right?
Yeah, and I think in a way, um, because like in London, if I was having a bad day, I would go stroll around a museum or walk down to the Thames or buy some clothes or like there's I mean it's not like the jungle. There is stuff here, but the distractions that you would typically have to distract yourself in the US or in the UK, you don't have that. So it does force you to come to terms with yourself. Like there's no, it's a bit like going cold turkey on all of your crutches. But at the same time, because there's less material stuff to do, it does mean that your personal connections are really important.
Okay.
So I don't, there isn't really an option of thriving in Grenada that doesn't involve having really solid connections with people because that what do you call it, social capital really matters a lot here.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, it's nice to form genuine friendships and you can say to someone, hey, let's meet up tomorrow. Whereas in London, it's like, yeah, book my calendar in 3 months' time and I might have 2 hours. So yeah, it's different here.
Okay, so you had three children. You brought three children back home. So how did they adjust? How was their adjustment to
It
the island living?
Yeah, it varied. So my youngest daughter was 4 when we moved here. So for a 4-year-old, just being able to roam freely and pick flowers and climb trees, like she really loved it. My middle daughter, I think, was 6, and she really came out of her shell and was able to like make friends and just
Oh,
become much
love.
more
Okay.
outgoing. But my son was 10 when we moved here, and I think for him, he was much more attached to London life in the same way that I was when I was 10 years old.
He was a city kid.
Yeah. Yeah, like there's no Lego store, there's no next door Amazon Prime, there's no McDonald's, there's no like all the stuff that you want when you're like a kid um, that likes to consume stuff was absent in Grenada. So he actually made the decision last December to move back to the UK to be with his dad. He's actually
Okay.
here. He's actually here now visiting. He arrived on Saturday. And what's funny is, like you said, but mum, on this trip, I don't want to leave without a Grenadian passport.
Oh,
So he understands. He might not want to live here
yes.
permanently, but for
The
him,
older you get, the wider your eyes are.
yeah,
You
he knows
see.
he needs options, which
Yeah.
that feels like a job well done.
So how old is he now?
14 and a
Okay.
half.
Okay. Good job. Good job, mom.
We try.
Okay, so back to your logistics of the journey. All right. So you were pulled back to your parents' homeland, right? How what were you doing for work, and how did you save financially to make the move to bring your family over as well?
Yeah, so my saving journey was pretty grim. So I didn't have a massive salary. I didn't, people say like, yeah, you need to have like 120,000 in the bank. I'm like, yeah, that's not happening in this
That's
life. That's just no.
I haven't met an expat yet who made the leap with that much money. Okay, but go
But
ahead.
you see people saying like you need six figures. And I guess if you're the sort of person who typically has six figures in the bank, then that makes sense for you. Like I've never had six figures in the bank. So if I had to wait for that to happen in order to move, I would have died.
Never had it right.
So, but yeah, when I decided that I was going to do it, it meant just doing things differently. Like I started getting my nails done. My clothes were purchased less frequently from much less glamorous stores. Um, but yeah, I think I was probably saving maybe a third of my salary every month, just knowing like I don't even want to be in this country. I don't want to go to bars. I don't want to be around these people. So I'm just taking what I have and putting it towards having a good life elsewhere. And um, it felt like a good way to focus my energy in what I wanted to make happen. And the main thing that was a stumbling block was how am I going to make money out there, right? Because um, folks in the Caribbean generally, yeah, the standard, the amount that people earn is a lot less than is typical in the UK or the US. And I wasn't really willing to drop down. I mean, I can't with three kids, that wasn't an option.
Right.
But the pandemic happened and I started doing some facilitation work online.
Okay.
And I started that job with never having met my colleagues face to face. I was like, cool, if I can do this in London, I can do this in Grenada. And that was my ticket to freedom is, yeah, I'm earning virtually.
Working for yourself, basically.
Yes, sort of. Yeah, I was doing diversity and inclusion consulting for management consulting firms and law firms.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, that was that was the initial step. As time has gone on, I've added other uh, income streams to the mix,
Right.
and kind of stopped the diversity and inclusion stuff because at a certain point I was like, why am I living in a predominantly black country and then dining into white people's racism? Like
Exactly. Right.
racism.
That's you leave that behind too. Leave the hustle life, leave what that story arc for them. Right.
Yeah, which felt very liberating. So yeah, that was what made the difference. Last year, I started a non-profit organization here, and we did some work after a hurricane hit the island. So that was really my first experience of like fully getting involved in working with local Grenadians, connecting with the government, and yeah, that was 3.5 years in, um,
Okay.
and I think yeah, a lot of people, I definitely have a lot of people saying like, how do I find a job in Grenada? How do I find a job in the Caribbean? And it's not really something that I encourage people to focus on.
Okay.
One, because there's quite a significant cultural difference between working in the UK and the US and working in the Caribbean, which can be quite challenging to navigate. I definitely know a few people here who've tried and it's been challenging unless you're working for quite an international company. And yeah, the salary can also be challenging to navigate as well. So I typically encourage people to, if you can set up a location independent business,
Okay.
then being based here can really work for you. And there are investment opportunities as well, but it definitely takes time to understand. I think the Caribbean is a bit like Christmas. It's, you know, it's beautiful, it's paradise. It's just that's what people think initially. But yeah, it's a completely different culture that has its own mechanisms. And taking time to get familiar with that is really important. Otherwise, it can be quite a surprise.
What we tell people here, like we tell people on, and not just here, but all expat supporting YouTube YouTubers say that, you know, expat living is not like, you know, traveling. It's not like living as a tourist. So just like you said, even like influencers, travel influencers, living somewhere is different from traveling somewhere for even two weeks, a month, multiple months. If you living there, your experience is going to be vastly different. Um,
Yeah, definitely, definitely, definitely. And I think that process of letting go of like, well, this is how it works in New York, or this is how it works in London. Like that's nice, but you're not in New York. You're not in London. You're in somewhere that has existed on its own terms for like multiple centuries. So yeah, letting go of your culturally conditioned shoulds can
yes.
be quite a painful process, but the sooner you can do it, the easier life is going to be for you.
And start is mindset shift, right? So start that process before you even make the move. You start the process while you're scouting. You start the process while you're researching the country that you are contemplating moving to, right? Um, so you mentioned something that I want to go back to. When you got to when was the how long have you been in Grenada?
I've been here coming up to 4 years. Coming
4 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you were coming back and forth, did you identify a house that you wanted to live in, or did you come by yourself first and bring your children over later? How was that process?
I would typically come on my own, but then the year before we moved, we did, how long did we do? 5 or 6 weeks here. I
Okay.
think because schooling was the issue, I wanted to give my kids the chance of doing a summer camp attached to a school so they could get a sense of who are the teachers, what are the kids like, and yeah, kind of easing that shift for them. So that was that process. And in terms of the house I identified was my parents' house that had been sitting empty.
Wow. Okay, they still had the house. Not wait, not even the land, but the house was still there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they
Were they
purchased.
renting it out? Were they renting it out?
No, no. So they bought this house in 2004,
Okay.
and their plan was to retire. But my mom got cancer, passed away at 54.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And so it was really her vision to come back. My dad was like, yeah, I prefer Barbados. So yeah, the house was here sitting empty, and I was like, why am I struggling in London when I could be living in Grenada for close to free? And I think also like my mom was 54 when she passed away, and the life that she led, and like professionally very successful, but as we know, as high achieving Black women, the environments can be exceptionally toxic.
Yes.
And especially when it comes to cancer, breast cancer, stress is a
Yes.
significant factor. And I think I really had to question, yeah, I think her death made me reflect on, okay, what do I want to do with my time on the planet? Do I
Yes.
want to kind of go through that same cycle she went through? I mean, I'm going to die one day, but at
Yes.
least I make
But
sure
am
that
I going to let the job grind me down
yeah,
to dying early? Right.
right. So yeah, that in some ways it feels like a massive gift to have had this. But it still meant some sacrifices along the way, and still meant people thinking I'm crazy and having to be okay with people thinking I'm crazy, and just realizing that I need to do me.
But
Um,
she bought the house for a reason. She bought the house for a reason. It's like you're actualizing her dream. You just stepped into her dream to finish it. So if you're crazy, then your mother was crazy. Like it makes no sense. And then
she
for you
was,
all
she
to
was a
go on,
bit crazy.
yeah, exactly, exactly, exactly. That is such a beautiful story. So the house was paid for.
The house is paid for. Yeah, the
Did you
house is
have to
paid.
do any renovations?
I mean, I should. I should be doing renovations, but not yet. not yet.
But you've been there 4 years, so you didn't. There were no major. I'm thinking that when you said that she bought the house and had been sitting there, I'm thinking that, like, you know how they say, "Oh, come back to Italy." Like these villages in Italy, they have houses and they're halfway, ruins. Basically, that's what I'm envisioning. But no, you didn't have to do any work before you moved in.
I mean, I could do, but then I think this is also the thing about Grenada, right? Or for me anyhow, being here, is that the in the so-called developed world, like everything needs to be Instagram perfect, right? You invite people around, you want it to look glitzy and glamorous. You're reading El Deco or Vogue Interiors, and you want like the latest this and the latest that. You want to change the color because now this isn't and that isn't. And here, like, it really doesn't matter. Like, I have a roof over my head, I've got electricity, my priorities change. So I'm like, okay, I could renovate the house, which might mean needing to work, I don't know, an extra 12 hours a week. Do I want to work an extra 12 hours a week, or do I want to go to the beach and chill?
Yes. Yes.
So it's just a completely different decision-making framework, which to some people, if they came to my house, it's probably not as glitzy and glamorous as it could look, but I feel glitzy and glamorous on the inside, and I prioritize me rather than my material possessions. So,
and we already talked about mindset shift, right? So you are well into that. You are on the other side of that. There's no shifting needed. You are living your dream in a dream house in a dream location and prioritizing the things that you want, that you feel are important.
yeah, and I wouldn't say I'm living the dream. I can't say that. No, I'm living a good life with ups and downs. And I think that's I think a lot of people reach out to me like, oh, you're so brave. I could never do this. Like, oh, thinking that I don't have a perfect life. I have a good life. I have a life that I'm very intentional about, but I still have stuff that goes wrong. I still have stuff that I'm like, sometimes like, what? Why did you do that? I still mess up a lot.
You still have, your life still has valleys and peaks.
Yeah. And I think sometimes people have a degree of perfectionism that they think moving abroad is supposed to be like. And your life now isn't perfect. Your life abroad isn't going to be perfect. And that's fine. That's just part of life.
Life abroad is not utopia, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. So take the pressure off yourself to think that everything has to be perfect when you move abroad. It won't be. You just need to learn how to adapt and to be cool in yourself.
Okay, so we went over pros of living in Grenada. We went over the lovely lush landscape, the beautiful beaches. That's my pro. Nature. We went over the less stress, no hustle culture, right? Not touristy, so you don't have like people following you when you go out for a walk on the beach trying to sell you stuff, right?
None of that. None of that, thank God.
So let's go over the cons, right? So people always assume that life out of the US or out of the UK, right? Or out of Canada is going to be less expensive. What is the cost of living there?
I mean, I think it depends where you're moving from in North America or Europe, but the Caribbean is generally expensive. I think a lot of folks, when it comes to moving abroad, they're looking at places like Mexico or Thailand or Vietnam, where the cost of living is really low. In Grenada, not so much. Many things are more expensive than they would be wherever you're coming from, because food is imported, cars are imported, electrical goods are imported. So unless you have like an abundant flow of money coming in, you do have to be a lot more aware about how you're spending your money and what you're spending on. Like in the UK, I can go to the supermarket and essentially more or less just like put stuff in my trolley. A trolley, like cart.
Yeah.
Put stuff in my cart. Whereas in Grenada, you can't really do that. Even people who are like wealthy are like, yeah, the stuff here is pricey.
Okay. So as pricey as the UK?
More. In terms of food, definitely more. Food costs more.
Okay. Is that because they have to ship the food there? Okay.
It's because, I mean, unless you eat the local stuff like plantains, yams, green banana, fish, which
that's what we're eating. What that's what we're eating. I don't understand. So you mean market like stuff that you're used to getting in the US or stuff that you're used to getting in the UK?
Yeah, and for me, like there's only so many times I can eat that food. I guess I'm my own worst enemy, but I'm like, I want some
I could
Italian.
just eat fish all day. I can eat fish all day, every day. Seafood all day, every day.
Yeah,
Yes.
good. Yeah, I realized so food is my crutch, and I didn't realize that. But there's times when like, I'm craving just stuff that I can't get here. Um, but yeah, accommodation in St. George's, rental prices, I'd say for a decent 2-bedroom apartment, you're probably looking at around, I'd say 2000 US upwards for a decent 2 beds. Um, yeah, property here is not. I mean, if you go out to the countryside or to some of the outlying parishes, it can be more affordable, but it probably won't be finished to the standard that you're used to.
So
Um,
what areas do you suggest people look at when they think of living there?
I
Depending
think
on for a reasonable rent.
it really depends. It really depends what you want, and like what's reasonable to you is not reasonable to me. I think if you want, because also the further out you go, the further away you are from the typical amenities. So if you want
Yes.
the gym, yoga studios,
Yeah.
cinema, shopping, restaurants, that's in a particular radius,
Okay.
which comes at
So
a
you would say 2000 if you're for a 2-bedroom, if you want all of those amenities, that's about look around at that range.
yeah, you can get less, and I guess it depends how comfortable you want to be. But yeah, Grenada's not cheap. Grenada's cheaper than like Saint Lucia and Antigua and
Yeah.
Barbados for sure. Um, but yeah, it's in the capital. It's not cheap. If you go further out to some of the neighboring parishes, you can definitely get things that are priced much more affordably, but they
Okay.
will typically not be marketed towards tourists. They'll be marketed towards Grenadians, so the finish will be different. I have a lot of folks saying to me, "I want 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms," and I'm like, "That's a foreigner's price. Grenadians don't live in
Yeah.
houses that
Right.
big, and they're happy with 1 bathroom." So you just have to figure out like what's important to you, and then adjust accordingly.
So what about utilities?
Um, so one thing you don't really pay for here is central heating. I, I don't know what you call it in the state, but yeah, you don't really need to heat. Water is generally heated by solar heaters, so I constantly have hot
Okay.
water, which I don't pay for, which is great. I think my electric bill is around US, maybe like 120 US a month. I live in a 4-bedroom house. We only have AC in 2 rooms. So
Okay.
if you're running AC all the time, that does increase it. Gas, you actually buy in canisters. So it's
Okay.
not connected to the mains. And I maybe go through 3 canisters a year. Each canister costs 40, 40 EC, which is around maybe 15 US.
Oh wow. So that's you buy 3 of those for the whole year? Okay, so that's more affordable. Your electricity is about on par, depending on how much electricity you use. That's about average for
Yeah,
a
I
normal
think
user.
kids, you never turn off the lights or their devices. So yeah, our
Yeah.
consumption,
Yes.
yeah. But we don't use the AC all the time. I am like constantly turning off the AC. So yeah, like I think energy costs here are probably definitely more than in Canada. Canada has like exceptionally low prices, but yeah, I wouldn't say that they're exorbitant.
So what about if I don't have a car? Is it how do you get around? Transportation good there?
You can get around by bus, but if you want to get around by bus and not have a car, you definitely need to be living somewhere a little more central that's close to the bus route.
Okay.
And buses don't go everywhere, so I generally recommend to people recommend that they drive. I've got a gentleman here at the moment who is doing a 2-month trial run of living in Grenada. So I'm helping him with everything from finding a doctor to taking driving lessons. So he's from California, used to like massive highways.
Yes.
He's from Grenada where it's a lot smaller. He's having to learn to drive on the other side of the road. but
Are there a lot of cliffs? Okay. So are there a lot of like? I know it's hilly. I know the landscape is hilly. Is the routes or like not the highways or but the roads? Are they like? You gotta look over the cliffs.
on the western side, which is on the Caribbean Sea, there are quite a few cliffs towards the south of the island. On the eastern side, fewer cliffs, but it's a volcanic island, so it
Oh, okay.
is pretty mountainous in places. Um, so yeah, you get used to it. You get used to it.
Can you ship? How much is it to ship a car there?
Um, Importing a car is expensive because of environmental issues. You can't ship a car that is more. Car has to be less than 4 years old,
Okay.
and
So
so
an
they
energy efficient car,
need
basically.
to be efficient. Yeah, and off the top of my head, I cannot remember the exact figures, but I think the import duties are something like 84%. So you are essentially paying twice for your car.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. Okay. All right. So live centrally and you can't use the bus, but it doesn't go everywhere. Okay. Do they have lifts and ride shares?
Yeah, there is a version here called Halup. So folks do use that. And I think another option that people who are living here longer term would look at. So St. George, Grenada's kind of renowned for an American medical university here. So
Okay.
that accounts for something like 20 or 25% of GDP. And so we have thousands of medical students, hundreds of professors who teach them, and there's a whole economy around
Oh, so it's
that.
like Cuba. It's like Cuba.
Yeah.
How a lot of people study, they go to Cuba to study and then they go come back
Okay. Right.
here. Mhm.
Yeah. This is like an actual American university that's been here since the
Oh,
1970s.
okay.
But what you can do if you're looking to rent a car long term is to rent from the sorts of people who rent to students because they're here for at least 12 months. The rates are a lot lower. So that's definitely a way of reducing your costs to when
So
it
it's
comes.
like leasing. So it would be like leasing the car.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a pause for the cause to say hello to some people, some new people. My cousin is in here. Hey, cuz, my cousin Carla. Hey, Kyoka, the awkward black nomad. Hey, ladies. If you have specific questions about living life in Grenada or living there, cost of living questions, education questions, dating questions, let us know. Put them in the chat. Um, okay, so transportation, we covered that. We cover your housing situation. Again, what areas, we're going to circle back to ask what areas would you suggest that people who have never been to the island first come to scout, maybe?
Um, which areas? It really. So if you want to be around the action, being in the capital, St. George's, is a good idea.
Okay.
Um, the main beach area is called Grandance. That's like a 2.5 mile long beach.
Okay.
Dotted along it are hotels, restaurants, bars, shopping, two shopping centres. Um, so that tends to be the active hub. You also have areas like True Blue, which is where the medical school is, and they have their own. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. Then you have sort of more high-end areas like Lansapine, um, which is primarily expats, has two marinas, some really nice hotels. That's
Okay.
definitely at the pricier end. But for folks who are willing to go a little further out, the neighboring parish of St. David's is quite affordable. It has a brand new Six Senses hotel there.
Okay.
They're building an intercontinental hotel, so that's kind of an up and coming area for people who might be looking to invest. So your property goes up in value. Um, my family are actually, well, part of my family is actually from the north of the island, which is about, I'd say, an hour and 20 minutes drive from the south. And there it's really lush. Um, you can find more affordable property, but it's really low key. It's peaceful. It's quiet. There are no traffic jams.
It's really
Um,
remote. It's remote.
Yeah, I mean, it has a town with pretty much most of the amenities that you'd need, but it's definitely slower paced.
Okay.
I prefer it out there. The main reason that I'm down here is because my kids are at school down here. But yeah, if I didn't have kids, I'd be living
So
a
how
better
much would it to rent a house be out there? Can you rent a house out there?
Yeah, you could. I would say around maybe 700, 800 US, but
That's cool.
you would want to tweak it to your tastes,
Okay. So it's
furnishing.
not a move in ready, basically.
Probably not. I mean, it
Buying
depends. Some
furniture, so if
people,
it's not move-in ready, buying can you buy furniture there?
I wouldn't buy furniture here, no, because again, it's imported, so it has like a
Okay.
significant. You can get people to make furniture for you, but I think it would be more soft furnishings. You would bring your curtains, your bedspreads, your just like things to kind of tweak it so that it feels more like. I mean, but then not everyone's as fussy as me. I mean, everyone's different. Everyone's
I am
different.
fussy. I like decorating, so I would probably have to import a lot of decorating decor things. But I love the fact that you said you can make it's like Mexico, like you get a lot of your furniture made there.
Yeah, yeah, and there's
And
a lot of mahogany that grows on that island as well. So you have some nice options when it comes to woods and that sort of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned so you've been talking about medical school. People come there to go to medical school. How is the healthcare there?
Healthcare is okay. It's not amazing. You would think, and again, it's medical school, healthcare must be great. There isn't actually a system whereby doctors go from the medical school
To stay
because
there?
they're all Americans, right?
Okay.
Most Americans don't want to work in the Caribbean because the wages are a lot lower.
Right.
So health is actually their number one focus area for the current government who's been in power for the past 2 years. They're building a new medical facility. My daughter was in hospital last year for a week. Um, and yeah, you definitely notice that there is a difference. I mean, in the UK, healthcare is not amazing, far from amazing. Um, but yeah, having medical insurance, making sure that you have options that you can be airlifted if you need to, is something that's quite common for serious medical treatment. People might fly to Barbados or Trinidad or Miami. Um, so it's adequate, I
Is
would
there
say.
a Caribbean expat healthcare plan?
No,
No.
there's a healthcare plan wherever you come from. I mean, I guess if you're from the US and you have international, what is it? I forget the name of the main
It's
expat.
like the expat nomad insurance, health insurance that people use when they travel around. Yeah. But I was just thinking since all the islands are there, maybe there was one that you could just
No, each island is like its own legal jurisdiction. There's
okay.
very little that covers all of the islands except in terms of how would I explain it? So because I have Grenadian citizenship, if I wanted to set up a business in Jamaica, I can do that without any issues. So it allows freedom of movement
Yeah.
and labor. So that is one of the reasons that I always encourage people, like if you have any Caribbean links, like do what you can to get a passport. Even if you don't see yourself living in that particular island, once you have it, it then allows you to be able to be elsewhere within CARICOM. So that's definitely something worth exploring if you have an old, I don't know.
It's certainly something you should explore, given the current climate. We're not going to bring everybody down, but you know what's going on. And if you have, so question, is that just parents or can you go back and get residency from your grandparents' heritage?
It varies. It varies from island to island. So I know Jamaica allows by grandparents. Trinidad, I believe, allows by grandparents. St. Kitts and Nevis, and I think St. Vincent changed their legislation last year to also allow by grandparents.
Okay.
But for most of the others, it's parents. So if your
Okay.
parents are born on the island, you are then automatically a citizen. Well, in Grenada, there's a process for applying for a passport, but yeah, it varies from country to country.
So how long did your process take?
5 working days.
That was the whole thing? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I did it on the island. So a lot of people, I'm actually helping someone who applied for a passport back in 2017 and has yet to see all his passport, all his documents back. So I always say to people, like, at least for Grenada, if you come here and get it done on the island, it's much quicker.
Wow.
So yeah, I handed in my birth certificate, my father's birth certificate, and whatever forms I handed that in on the month. It's probably less. I think it was 3 working days. But typically for the folks that I work with, it's about 5 working days.
And you did it yourself. You didn't need anybody to help you through the process.
No, the lawyers here would love to charge you, and they charge you a lot, but it's not necessary unless there's an issue with your parents' name.
Okay. Okay. So this is birth residency. So what are the if you're not, if you wanted to relocate there, if you want to become a citizen, is there an income requirement that you have to meet to get that?
Yes, so there are varying options. There's options for citizenship and options for residency.
Right.
So in terms of citizenship, your options are by birth, by descent, by marriage, by naturalization, or by investment.
Okay.
So investment, you can make a donation to the National Development Fund for 250,000 US, which
Okay.
will buy you citizenship. I think the process takes around 7 months at the moment.
Okay.
Or you can invest in property, which doesn't allow you to live in that property all year round. It's a little bit more like a timeshare, and I think that investment is typically around 350,000 US. Naturalization, after 7 years of living on the island, you can apply for citizenship by naturalization. But the process is to apply for permanent residence, and then for additional 5 years after permanent residence, you can then apply for citizenship by naturalization. In terms of residency, typically, if you come here with on a UK, US, or Canadian passport, you will be on a 3-month tourist visa, but you can then pay to extend your tourist visa.
Okay.
In US, I think it's around 25 US a month, so not much. But if you're doing that, you're a tourist. You can't work here. If you work, you're breaking the terms of your visa. But if you're working remotely, that's an option as well. Grenada doesn't have a digital nomad visa. So unlike Barbados and Dominica and a few other islands that have a visa that allows you to stay for 12 months once you earn a certain amount and after you pay a certain amount, we don't have that here. So typically what folks do is to come on the tourist visa and then extend. So there are people living here now who have citizenship, who came as tourists and stayed and extended, got residency, got citizenship, and avoided having to pay £250,000 for a passport. So where there's a will, there's a way.
So that's just an overcap. If you are interested in Grenada, I suggest that you look up the exodUScollective. This is the website. I put it in the chat. We're going to get into the specific offerings, what she offers from the expat collective. And but that was just a recap of the different ways that you can become a citizen or a resident. So we talked about the medical. How much do you pay for medical insurance? Do you have medical insurance as a nomad?
No, I don't. I don't have medical insurance.
Okay, so you can so the fees. You said your daughter was in the hospital, was hospitalized last year. How much about altogether was her care?
So I had to pay 70 EC for her ultrasound. What's that? My math. Say like 20 US. I had to pay for her ultrasound. That was it.
That was it.
Like in the UK, healthcare is free.
Oh, okay. Wow. So that's a plus. That's a pro.
Yeah, it is.
Free.
I mean, I come from the UK where it's also free, so I'm like free to free. It's just free. But for US folks, yeah, it's a saving. It's a saving.
Okay, so you don't really need it because it's free. That's the clarification. Great.
but you can get health insurance. Some people do. Some people, again, that option to be able to travel elsewhere is quite
Right.
handy. There is a private hospital here, which I visited once. So there are options. There are options.
So she didn't have to stay in, there was no prolonged time to stay in the hospital.
She was there for a week.
And it was free? The stay was free? Child, okay. That is a plus. What? Wow.
Yeah, it was free.
Okay, so that's definitely a pro. Okay. So you've been there for 3-4 years. You have your children there. We did not talk about the school. How did you find the school? What were the requirements that the school had to have for you to enroll your children?
So I think I had to make a call between, did I want my kids to go to like a fully Grenadian school or to somewhere that was a little more international? And I think because they had some hesitancy about what it would be like to settle in, I chose to go for a more international school, not like an international school, but school with kids who were from Grenada, but also from overseas as well. So
Yes.
they go to a Montessori school, which is like really small. I can't In my 9-year-old class, there are probably 11 children. In my 8-year-old's class, there are 20 children. Um, and yeah, it's a nice small school. I think typically the public schools here in Grenada are quite focused on academics.
Okay.
Um, and I think for me, I more just wanted like a nurturing, chilled out environment for them. I'm less like get a million grades. I'm not that sort of person. Um, so yeah, that's
So
the
it's a
step.
more rounded, well-rounded, a supportive school.
Yeah, that was the goal. Yeah.
Well, just the ratio of teacher to student, that's a plus already. How would you rate the quality of education they get here versus what in the UK?
It's really hard to compare. It's really hard to compare. Um, I think in the UK there are so many more resources, so the breadth of what they're introduced to is like much wider. Um, Say, for example, a science lab that you would have access to in the UK, there's no comparison to what you would have here in Grenada. Um, but at the same time, I think the distractions that the kids have in the UK or in the US, I mean, like you don't need to worry about getting shot, for example, or like my son went back to school, had someone like pull a scissor. And, yeah, yeah. So like in terms of your kid being safe,
Safety.
and going to school and coming back alive, like that's
Yes.
never ever anything I have to worry about. Pretty much all of their teachers are black. Um, so a lot of the nonsense that you have to deal with in the UK and in the US isn't an issue. And I remember with my youngest daughter, while we were here, her dad's mum passed away. And she was really, really down and kind of saying stuff that got her teachers worried. And yeah, her two black female teachers just really like built her up and supported her in ways that never would have happened to me in the UK. So while the academics may be different to what it would be in the UK in terms of like self identity and being around people who let you know that you matter, who don't look at you differently because you look exactly like them. For me, I had the opposite. I
Yeah.
had the
So,
opposite in
so
my brain.
as you're talking, I'm thinking like it would be the equivalent of a primary like black college experience, basically,
Yes,
on a smaller scale. You know what I mean? But you have the support of your professors
yes,
and the community feel that they're there for your highest potential, right?
yeah, yeah, which I did not have growing up. And I'm really glad that they've been able to experience that. So even my son now when he's back in the UK, he can compare and contrast. And there's a whole lot of uh, nonsense, shall we say, that he's having to deal with. I'm like, yeah, that's the reality of living in the UK.
Yeah.
But what is nice is that he knows that that's not the only form of existence.
Yes.
Whereas me growing up as a kid, I was like, well, we're the minority. Like, we're not the minority. Like,
Right.
minority where? No.
And he has, and like you said, he wants his a passport because he know he has options. If he gets sick of it, he can come there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, we are highlighting this again. Yes, Khadijah, healthcare is free. That's a plus. So I think that will offset for me. That will offset the higher cost of living. Healthcare is free. I can eat fish all day. I can eat fish and fruit all day. Nobody's bothering me. No hustle culture. This is sounding great. Sounds great to me.
No hustle.
Um, let's get into the exodUScollective and what that is. Explain with the people when you founded it, what it is, and what you do there.
Good question. So, a friend of mine who's from the US and moved to Grenada a few years before I did, around the time of the murder of George Floyd, we were just really feeling this. There was just a sense of urgency for people to be able to explore other safe spaces in which they could exist. And there was a lot about moving back to the motherland in West Africa, which is awesome. But we were just aware that the Caribbean was also an option that people may not have felt was for them. So just starting the conversation. Ooh, I'm the only person here. I hope everyone is coming back. Starting the conversation around what it looks like to make that journey, to show that you don't have to be retired in order to move back, that you don't have to be a millionaire in order to make that move. And also, don't even necessarily need to have connections to that particular island, that people who had no ancestral links were able to relocate. That was something that we really wanted to do. So we started off interviewing people, people who moved to Jamaica, to St. Lucia, to islands across the Caribbean. That was something that we started to do. And then I think as we started to share those narratives and they came up again and again, people started reaching out to say, hey, listen, I've seen the video, I've seen the interview, how do I actually do it? So that moved into doing one-on-one consultations with people, helping them to, it's basically, I would call the process conscious relocation. So rather than feeling like I hate where I am, I just want to be somewhere else, getting people to get really intentional and really clear about what is it that I'm hoping to achieve in this move. What are my non-negotiables? What is really important to me? And start mapping out the design for your existence overseas in a way that, yeah, just gives you like a really strong framework to work towards, and also to basically, yeah, create that pathway so you're less running away from and running towards something that is incredibly important. I was just freestyling there. I don't even know if you were around, but
I meant to warn you. I meant to warn you before we started the live. I do that from time to time because I need to look for stuff. I don't be wanting to look crazy when I'm looking for stuff online. But I also want to give you shine when you get into your pocket. So to explain what the program is. But so she's in Grenada, but she has this collective, this community that will help you move anywhere in the Caribbean, right?
I mean, I think that that's what it has been. But I think also, so I'm working with a client now, one on one, 4 hours a day, which is quite a lot, helping him to settle. But I think after 4 years, what I'm pivoting towards, what excites me a little bit more, is I think sometimes people focus on like changing destination. And like if I'm in Mexico or Ecuador or Panama, like
Yeah.
that's the thing, like being elsewhere, not being here. But I think underneath it all is often a desire for like a completely different sort of life. Um, and I think in many ways, that shift of being elsewhere is an invitation to make a shift in your life. So, what is it that you really wanted to do before you went to college, before everyone told you what you were supposed to do, before you knew before you got all that conditioning?
Yes.
And I think, especially in later life, where you just really may not have had the chance to think about, but what do I actually want? You know?
Before the society put this on you, before your family put this on you, who are you at your core? Funny you mentioned it. That wasn't one of our topics, but that has been a theme in some of my most recent, videos and chats. Like, we are all searching for that. I don't want to say utopia, but we are all searching for our authentic self, right?
Yeah.
The authentic self. And when you find that, um, you can choose for yourself, what are you passionate about, right?
Yeah. And
Without Go ahead.
no, tell me.
Yes, without, like, when I growing up, I wanted to be a writer, a singer, and all these things, right? But then as you get older, oh, that's not possible. As you get older, oh, you're going to be a starving artist. As you get older, all of these things, all of this toxic mindset is given to you, and you ingest it, right? So there's a process you have to go through to rid yourself of that, to eliminate all that. It's a reverse brainwashing, right? So you have to rid yourself, let go of limiting beliefs, do the work so that you can start over and come and find yourself, basically.
Yeah, and I think it can be quite scary because, like, we're so invested in who we are. Like, I remember when I decided I didn't want to be a journalist, like, but I've done this for 20 years. What do I put on the form if it's not journalist? That you're so linked to that sort of thing. And I think so much in society conditions you to, like, be this little rat on a hamster, like,
Yes.
more, bigger, more. That to stop for many people is quite terrifying. And I think for some people, they're invited to it. Other people have the rug pulled from underneath them, like, you've been made redundant, like, you're fired. You have no choice but to find something else.
Yeah.
But really, yeah, helping people or inviting people to kind of go on a journey of cleansing, getting rid of what doesn't serve them, acknowledging, that thing of it's Sunday and that dread, like,
Yes.
it doesn't have to be
The
that way.
Monday. Yes.
That grip, like, it's still Sunday, but you're already dreading Monday, and you, like,
Yes.
can't wait. It's just, yeah,
And
that's
I
a
don't have a
really,
job. I don't have a day job, and I still feel it. Why? Why do I feel it on Sunday? I'm like, oh, I have to I have to work on Monday.
yeah. See, I
What is
don't, I
that?
don't feel that. I don't feel that, and I know what it was like to feel that, and it was horrendous. It felt like a grip. I mean, yeah, there's jobs that just are toxic, but you feel that that's what you have to do because you need to pay bills, and other people think you're doing well because they see you.
Right.
But yeah, for me, having spoken to dozens of people, having had the chance to be away and be elsewhere, like that niggling thing for many people, not for everyone, but for a significant number of people, that itch that they need to scratch is at the seed of this desire to be elsewhere because they know the version of the life that they have isn't what they want to
Yes.
do. And it's very easy to move somewhere else and think, okay, the environment is going to make things better. But it might not. It probably it won't. It can only do so much until you start making the shifts yourself and you align yourself differently.
And
And
it's so interesting because we're all on, we do podcasts, we do blogs, we do all these things focused on that idea to change your life for the better, right? That where you are is not, and there are, that can be the case, right? That where you are is not satisfying, but it's this whole engine, this desire to have more, this desire to do something else, this desire to go somewhere else has fueled this whole trend, right? Of of the grass is greener, pursuing the grass is greener, right? But it all starts from within. It all starts from changing your mindset. It all starts from, instead of going towards something else outside of yourself, now the trend is, changing, transitioning your being, finding your authentic self and finding what that is, who you want to be, and then pursuing that.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's less where you're living, but how are you living? Like, what
Yes.
is it that lights you up? And I think once, as scary as it feels. And, you know, a lot of people have never had the chance to do that. It's just been like school, university, job, children, marriage, like all these shoulds. What happens when you start thinking about the coulds, like you dare to dream? And I think the more that you start doing that, the more it becomes impossible to do anything other than what lights you up. And yeah, that's definitely the journey that I've been on. And I can't say it's easy. I mean, it's growth, right? And growth is sometimes quite painful. But I definitely feel I think it's unfair to sell people the dream of, like, and that's why when you say I live a dream life, it's really not. There's no dream. Like, it's just reality. But it's about being intentional and, yeah, just being honest with people that it's going to have ups and downs. But as long as you keep on following your inner calling, and if you're getting that niggling feeling, it's for a reason other than to just be able to take nice Instagram photos.
Yes.
It's an opportunity to really flow and
Yes.
stuff.
That sounds great. It sounds great to me. So we started this conversation. You started this conversation by saying that you want to pivot from being a relocation to all the Caribbean islands to what then? To what are you thinking about offering?
Really helping people hone in on their purpose. And for some, like, there's not so many people, but quite a number of people that I speak to who want to move, who want to relocate, but they have aging parents and they can't, or they have a husband who doesn't want to leave and
Yes.
they can't. So does that mean you then put your life on hold? You just wait until that time where you get divorced to your parents? I don't. There's still little shifts that you can make, and whether it's moving abroad or staying where you are, but really just getting clear on what does it mean to fully be me. Like, what? And Stephanie Perry and I disagree on this because she's like, screw purpose. But I think purpose does matter. And
I
not
think so too. Stop. Pause. Okay. Pause. So to Adelia, Picky Girl Travel, to Kyoka. Are you still here, Kyoka? The awkward black nomad. First of all, I think it's semantics. I think passion and purpose is the same thing. And I think it's semantics. Like, purpose, I think it's according to what your definition of purpose is, right? I don't mean purpose as what people want from you, right? I mean purpose as in passion, what you feel good about putting out in the world.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on your definition of what purpose is, but I think it's the same thing. Like your what Stephanie Perry does for built this whole community, and Rashida, what they built this home community, they might not see that as their purpose, but come on. Like, come on. You okay, it's not your purpose, but you built this whole community. Same thing for Adelia, same thing for Kyoka, right? I just wanted to pause because I agree. It's just semantics, guys. All right.
Yeah. Not purpose as in like what makes you downtrodden and you want to serve everyone. No, because I think when you do what you love, it doesn't feel like work. And that's why for me, I love every day is an awesome day.
Yeah.
And when I notice that I'm not feeling that, and I had a moment last week where I'm not feeling like that, I'm like, okay, I could just suck it up, but I'm past that, so I'm not going to. And I had to do something that was really uncomfortable. But I did it, and I'm back in alignment. And I think the more that the more that you stop accommodating and living in the should, and recognizing when something is out of alignment, it just makes your life that much better. And I know 7 years ago, possibly watching this interview would have been really irritating and triggering. I'm like, well, it's all right for you sitting in the Caribbean. Like, I've got bills to pay. So I know that it can feel.
We're talking from a place of privilege, which I'm not privileged in this.
Yeah, I'm a single mom with 3 kids.
Yeah.
I'm a single mom with 3 kids. I don't think most people watching it are a single mom with 3 kids. I wasn't on 6 figures. I wasn't like I've made a lot of. I mean, part of the reason my hair is in locks is so that I don't have to get my hair done.
Yeah.
My hairdresser bills have like gone to zero. So it's I don't think everyone makes choices for some people, it is easier than others, but it's ultimately about, yeah, just like you're worth it. Like I don't think you're put here to struggle. It doesn't benefit you to struggle. It
Yeah.
benefits other people who profit from you. And I think unlike our ancestors who didn't have the option of moving, we do. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Doesn't mean that
Right.
everyone can move to the Caribbean. It doesn't. I there's places that I can afford to move to, and there's what's the word, compromises that I have to make because I am a single mother with
Yes.
3 children. There's places that just aren't an option for me, but like just taking small steps and being around the right sort of people, like as you say, mindset. Um, and it doesn't make necessarily money come out of nowhere, but I do think setting those intentions and aligning your actions accordingly, it's exciting to play with it.
That's the key. Like if you can write a resume, apply to these jobs, do this, go to work for somebody else, you can take action steps to pursue a life that you would rather want to live, right? So not that that's going to be easy, but it's just action steps. You just have to choose. We're just giving options and giving
Mhm.
choices. Here's this choice. Here's this choice. Here are the steps that you'll take to get here. Here's the steps that you'll take to get here based on what kind of life you want, basically.
Absolutely. And yeah, for some people it's easy. I mean, for me, it literally took me 10 years. It wasn't like I'm like, oh, I want to move to Grenada, boom,
Right.
I'm gone. It was a 10-year process. I had to go through mediation with my kid's father in
Right.
order to say it definitely wasn't easy. So I do recognize that the sense of freedom that I might have might sound triggering or
Yes.
irritating to some people because I remember being in that position. But it is possible. It's not always easy. If Don't be surprised if it doesn't feel easy, but sometimes that discomfort is necessary to get to where you need to be. Just accept the discomfort is part of the process.
So before I tell people to hit you up, are you taking new clients and consulting work now or consulting calls now?
Yes, I am. I also have a community, like a mastermind group that I'm forming. I can't remember where that link is.
I'm sure they can find it here. They can find it if they go to the exodus
Yeah, it's
collective
probably
website.
it will be in the description of one of my YouTube videos. So I'll find it and see if I can put it in the comments myself.
Okay.
But yeah, I think last year I was doing a mastermind group for location independent entrepreneurs, of whom Stephanie Perry was also a member. And I just think that that kind of group energy is so exciting. And I definitely know that for me, when I was on this journey, being the only person that I knew who was doing this before it became a cool thing, a lot of times I'm like, am I crazy? Like maybe I am crazy, and it kind of slows you down. Whereas if you're around other people who are also on that journey, you can encourage each other, you can share resources and networks and experiences. And I just think that accountability piece is really, really important. Um, so yeah,
So I put the link to her YouTube channel in the chat. It's also listed below in the description. She has a wealth of information about not only Grenada, but a lot of other Caribbean island. So if you want to pursue that, if you're scouting the Caribbean islands for your expat story, definitely look into her YouTube channel and subscribe to that channel. We are an hour and so in. So if you are still here, we have 5 people still here. If you have not introduced yourself, say hi. Take a minute to say hi so I can acknowledge you and thank you for being here and staying with us. So, is there anything that we did not address that you like to add to the Living in Grenada conversation?
is there anything that I want to add to the conversation? No, I mean, I think I don't, Grenada is not for everyone. I definitely think the power of scouting trips and trial runs are really, really important.
Yes.
I think, as you said, stopping off somewhere for a few hours on a cruise is very different to actually living somewhere. So when you come, take the time to whichever Caribbean island you go to or wherever, take the time to stay in an Airbnb outside of a touristy area. You know, I do calls with people who are like, yeah, we had 2 weeks at Sandals. We want to move to Grenada. I'm like, the experience
No.
you get at all, you know, it would be lovely, but it's very different. So yeah, just taking the time to get really real about what the destination that you're looking for has to offer and how that resonates with you. And also take the time to be really unapologetic about the sort of life that you want to lead. You know, it's not to say that the first move you make has to be perfect, but at least give yourself something really solid to aim towards. So whether you do that through meditation or journaling or whatever your modality is, taking that time to just be really bold with your dreams and to kind of let the shoulds get out of the way and replace that with the coulds. Like, what could I do? How do I make this into a really exciting experiment that delivers something that's probably been at the back of my mind, but I didn't necessarily feel entitled to? Like,
Yeah.
why not? Give it a try. That's what I would say.
And I would add, don't listen to naysayers. If this is something that you want to do not listen to naysayers, and join a community, right? Join a community, seek out a community for information, for support, for guidance, a community like this channel, Yvonne McBride Lit Life, a community like the exodUScollective. Please seek out community, a community. You can go to Facebook and look up whatever country you are trying to get to, plethora of places you can go search, but seek out community so you don't feel like you're so alone in your journey.
I think I found the link. Can I give it? Can I put it in the if I put it in the private chat? Can you put it in the
Yes.
comments?
Yep. Do that.
There you go. That will allow you to sign up to the mailing list. I have quite a few people on there, and yeah, I think maybe we will do like a little Zoom session and just connect with each other and find out where people are at, and then yeah, move it forward so that you can start making progress. I think that's the thing, as you say, it's just like these little steps, these little incremental steps, that then yeah, before you know it, get you to where you need to be in the time frame that works for you.
So if you're watching now or if you're watching in the future, I put it in the chat. I will also add it to the description below in the chat. So thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. I'm trying to remember, how did we connect in one of Stephanie's coaching groups?
Girl,
Is
I
that
don't even
how?
know. I don't even know. I don't know which group it was first. Were you in Wanda Duncan's group too?
No,
So
no.
it had to be exodUScollective.
Exodus Summit, yeah. Because I remember you were
Yeah,
on
yeah,
your
yeah.
writing journey, so it's been really lovely to watch you just like appearing all over the place, making amazing stuff
Thank
happen.
you,
So
thank you.
yeah,
Yes, it had to be Exodus Summit, but it was during COVID. It was during COVID when we were all like, okay, what's new? What's up? What is going on with everybody moving out of the country? It was during that time. So it's been a few
yeah,
years.
yeah. Well, keep on inspiring people. I love what you're doing. It's so necessary.
I love it too. And this is my third convo in my Lit Life Caribbean series. I did Panama and did Jamaica with Mocha Moselle. You know her well, and yes, this is the third installment of that. So, and thank you for saying yes. I will of course keep following you, and I encourage everyone to do the same. If you have stayed here for this conversation, if you like this conversation, if this is the vibe that you are living for, please take some time to subscribe to the channel. Please share this with like-minded women in your circle, and take care till next time. Thank you.